So this is our vision report of 2018. It really just starts here first with a little note from Pastor Jerry. Pastor Jerry has been involved in the process, but it's not been his primary focus. It's just been the strategic team's focus. He's been listening in, he's been understanding, but he's got a lot on his plate. Same with Pastor Stephen. Got a lot on their plates. They're involved, but they're not the day-to-day functioning of the strategic team. Then we go with our mission statement, and you've seen this before. So there's that sense of permanency of leading people to take their next step in a growing relationship with Jesus. Our 5 foundational stones, that hasn't changed either. Reaching people locally and globally, we're committed to that. We're committed to vibrant and engaging worship. We're committed to teaching God's Word wherever that may take place. Here, somebody's home, in the workplace, wherever it may take place. Building a family, we're committed to that as well. And living on mission, equipping people to take their faith out into where they interact with others, whether it be in school, in the workplace, or in their neighborhoods. Life is better connected. Now, how many of you have heard that said around here before? Right? We say that a lot, and we mean it. If we're not providing the on-ramps and connection points here, it doesn't make that happen. And we're passionate about that, about the journey that people can have here. No matter who they are or what age they are, we want to help facilitate that and provide a safe, engaging, and nurturing environment for people to take their next steps. Now, so we took a snapshot. Okay, this is the snapshot of kind of where we are. This is starting 432 in average attendance. That was as of March for this year. For those of us that think, back, 15, 20 years or longer, and you go back to what would define somebody and say, well, I regularly attend church. Their answer would have been, yeah, I regularly attend church, and that means if I'm not there every Sunday, I'm there near to every Sunday. Or I might even be there twice on Sunday. Or I might be there on a Wednesday night too. That was what was kind of a common definition of regularly attending church. That's not what it is now, unfortunately. You can be talking to different people who are passionate about their faith, yet they still define in their mind regular attendance as being once or twice a month. And we had 32 baptisms last year, so that's kind of these benchmarks that as we come into 2018 and we look ahead for the next 5 years. And again, another snapshot here of we've got about 40% that are formally associated with our Connect groups, and we've got a same percentage that are associated in volunteering and in areas of formal service in an area. And then we've got about 50% that are involved in our missions activities and with overseas missions. 6% where have actually been going, and the rest are just supporting financially. So that's kind of where we stand on that snapshot there. We know that there are other types of groups that people are involved with. This only measured Connect groups here. So it's not necessarily an accurate reflection of how many people are involved in our groups. And of course, then we did our budget. It's about a $1.3 to $1.4 million budget. That's how it's broken down into those different areas. From family ministry down, those reflect expenses that are either program expenses or materials. Given the area and the growth in the area in our neighborhood, what could we see over these next 5 years? And we set some potential goals of what we could see. These are things that if God is active and we are active, we could see 1,000 in worship during the week, have 2,500 connected in some way during the month. And then over 300 baptized and taking new steps in faith between now and 2022. Have a thriving discipleship path with 80% connected in groups. We want people to be connected, and we're going to help try to connect that as best we can. 50% volunteering, which would actually be a little bit above the average, but not a lot, and 10% taking annual mission trips from 6%. Be a community hub with an activated campus connecting to the thousands moving into the neighborhood. Now that means developing a two-way street here, that we want people to feel comfortable to come over here, to get used to the idea that this is a friendly place, that they can view us as somebody that is interested in their lives. And we can be the center of that neighborhood, that rock that people can count on, that is going to be there if there's a need in their lives, and where they can partake in things that can help them. Be a healthy, multiplying, praying church, taking intentional steps into the mission God has for us. Basically, making certain that we are doing all that we can with the undercurrent of prayer, and making sure that we're functional, that we're meeting the needs, and that we're able to not keep ourselves from engaging what God wants us to do. So we identified 3 strategic growth engines and 1 key area for improvement. Strategic growth engines are our weekend experience. This is very high level. There are things for our worship service that they're thinking through, they're working on to help enhance the worship service. If people have their Bible and it's on there and they want to connect, if it's not an app or anything, they need to connect, they got to have Wi-Fi. If they want to get on the YouVersion aspect of it, you got to have the Wi-Fi. The AV team, if they can't hear the director, then it's a problem. Same thing with the children and student activities. How do we fix things? How do we get things so that they work smoother? How do we streamline? How do we make it better and easier? Same thing with guest integration and orientation. So let's give a little tutorial here of something that you can do to help in this process. So this is a scenario. You're sitting in church and you're sitting on a row and you look around and there are some people on there you don't really know, right? And you look around and you say, all right, I don't know them. I'd like to say something to them, but I don't know them and I don't want to embarrass myself by saying, hi, I'm John Humphrey. Are you a visitor?
Yeah.
Instead, go, hi, my name's John Humphrey. I don't think I know you. How long have you been coming to FiveStone? You're just introducing yourself. Just armed with that, then you can naturally look around, maybe develop some new friendships, maybe help somebody who said, oh, I'm here for the first time. Really? Well, what brought you here today? And then you find out a little bit more. Well, we've got a welcome center in the back. Why don't we walk out together? I'll introduce you to our pastor or one of our pastors. That's how we all can be part of this process. The same thing with streamlining and better outlining the schedule for Sunday morning activities that occur here. The same thing with our Discover FiveStone activities. Those will be taking place. And we're also going to be starting here very soon a group that meets on Sunday mornings for people who are new to the church but haven't been able to get plugged into a Connect group. But at least gives them a place to go ahead and to develop some relationships before they've been able to join a group. They're also looking into safety and security, everything from the cameras operating in the kids area, that we had but weren't really working well, to the team that you see goes around and has a little communication in their ear. Discipleship path. This is an area that, when you stop and look at it, we don't want there to only be one discipleship path. We want people to have multiple ways that they're being fed. We're obviously starting with the Connect group structure that we have. We emphasize the personal strengths and spiritual gifts. When somebody comes into our church and Discover, we go over that a little bit, but we don't do much with it. It's more just some basic information. That's an area we know that we can add in here in a discipleship path, particularly for those that are new to the church, but hopefully even for others in the church, to begin to offer that. And we have some folks in our church that are stepping up to help lead that. The one-on-one discipleship mentoring and the leadership training and development, we've been wanting to implement that for a couple of years now. And we do know that these things are part of the answer, and they are being worked on. It's not something that's going to be immediate. It's something that will be coming over time. The other growth engine is local outreach. We've actually included some of the departments out here that have been here, but we've not ever done anything with it. And we've also included them into the mix. So it's basically a 2-mile radius around us is what we've pretty much defined as the area for local outreach. And what kind of events can we put together? What kind of materials can we have? What kind of outreach can we do? And those things are being developed and they're being planned already. Develop an inviting evangelistic culture. That's not only what we do here, but it's also in training us to have that mindset. And so it's not necessarily about our church, but it's just having that mindset of, okay, God, who have you placed me in contact with here today? And that's just an example of how do we instill that. That's part of our discipleship path here, of some of the things that we'll be building out. How do we go ahead and emphasize that? What kind of equipping and training can we be doing for folks? You know, there's lots of things that are available to us that the church can do if there's the demand and the response from the church members. And effectively market FiveStone to the region. You know, over the years, we've been out here 12 years now. We've not really done a whole lot. There are other areas of influence for this coming year that, you know, have an impact on what we're doing. Obviously, our giving, our regular giving, our missions giving, and our Christmas offerings. Those are all things that we know about and can plan on. You know, just as an update, the first quarter of the year, our giving was very strong. The second quarter hasn't been quite as strong. And we know that as we head into summertime, that, you know, we don't want to get behind the curve during summertime. So that's, I don't know if Stephen mentioned anything during the offering, or he was going to possibly do that, but that's just something we should be a little bit on our radar, is to maintain our giving at this time of year. It's pretty neat to see. We had another light turned on today, this morning, in our global outreach there at the churches there in Tanzania. So that's an important thing that's going on. And then the importance of prayer, whether that's on Sunday mornings with a prayer team or at other times, the importance of prayer for our church overall is huge. Other objectives, or some of them, we wanted the budget to reflect the strategic priorities, and it is doing that. Continued emphasis on the growth engines, prayer foundation, and then planning for future facility upgrades. There's nothing planned for this year in terms of any major renovations or major building program or anything like that. But we want to be at least prepared and planning for things that might happen in 2019 or 20 or 21. Increased communication. So I mentioned that there were 3 growth areas and there was 1 area for improvement. The area for improvement is communication. We're looking at ways internally here to build that capacity from both a volunteer and as from a staffing standpoint to focus in specifically on communication. It's got a ways to go before we can really see the benefits from all of this, but know that we feel that better communication is the key for having a lot of these things that we're talking about be implemented. What it also takes, not only is increased communication, but personal engagement. As I've talked through this, you've heard, we need more Connect Group leaders. We need more people stepping out to do volunteering. We need people, you know, to go ahead and be interested in doing this type of ministry, or somebody that could be raised up to even do what you're talking about there, Karen. So there has to be that type of personal engagement. The church can be a guide, but there's got to be a willingness for church members to take on some things that maybe they've not done today. And so I would just encourage each one of us here to examine, okay, what have you been doing? What could you be doing? What might you be interested in doing?